welcome back to Walking the Talk, the sermon podcast of Creekside Community Church in San Leandro, California, where we help you to walk out what we talked about on Sunday. My name is Jeff Bruce. I'm one of the pastors here. I'm joined by the usual cast of characters, and characters they are. John Bruce, Max Butler. Characters, how you doing?
Characters. Fine.
It's characterizing.
High characters.
Yes. High character, hopefully.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting here in awe of your ability to repeat that blurb at the beginning so flawlessly each time. You know?
Thank you.
Are you reading it, or
It's
is
kind
it
of
all,
a stupid human trick.
is it all up in the noodle?
It's just in there somewhere. There's
Impressive.
Little blurbs and memes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So how much of the Super Bowl did you actually watch?
I watched 20% of it.
Huh.
We were at multiple parties.
Oh,
So
okay.
I talked to a lot of people. The ads weren't even that good. So,
No.
yeah.
A disappointing experience all around.
Yeah. But someone got married. So that was new. That was kind of cool. The halftime show. Sacramento pastor actually performed a marriage in the middle of the halftime show. Yeah.
I hate to see the catering bills.
But Dad, you're all in on the Winter Olympics. This is something that you're more Summer Olympics. Mom is all in on the Winter Olympics.
Yeah. No, but the little bit I've watched, they've been great.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you understand curling?
I don't watch curling.
Okay.
Don't look at me.
That's not a sport.
Yeah.
So sweeping is not a sport.
Yeah. Well,
It's more of an art form.
yeah.
I could buy that.
It's well, it's kind of sad because football's over. It ended in the worst way possible, just about, with the Seahawks winning, which is awful. And then, the Warriors are kind of middling. And then spring training is coming, but
World Baseball Classic. That's what's
World Baseball Classic.
Yeah.
Thank you. There is something.
There
to
is
look
hope
forward to.
in March. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like the last 3 years ago. It was great. It was some of the best baseball.
Yeah.
Ohtani and Trout facing off each other. It was great. So
Oh, that's right. That was great. You know what's even better than the hope of sports?
tell me.
The Bible.
The hope that gives, that Scripture gives us. I was working on the alliteration there. We just started a new series on 1 Samuel, on God's upside down kingdom and the surprising ways God works to extend his reign in the world. And we're going to look at a few passages here that really set up the rest of the book. And we're going to start with chapter 1 here and introing the story. There was a certain man of Rathaim Zophim of the hill country of Ephraim, whose name was Elkanah, the son of Jeroham, son of Elihu, son of Tohu, son of Zuph, in Ephrathite. He had 2 wives. The name of the one was Hannah, and the name of the other Peninnah. And Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children. Now, this man used to go up year by year from his city to worship and to sacrifice to the Lord of hosts at Shiloh, where the 2 sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were priests of the Lord. On the day when Elkanah sacrificed, he would give portions to Peninnah his wife and to all her sons and daughters. But to Hannah he gave a double portion because he loved her, though the Lord had closed her womb. And her rival used to provoke her grievously to irritate her because the Lord had closed her womb. So it went on year by year. As often as she went up to the house of the Lord, she used to provoke her. Therefore Hannah wept and would not eat. And Elkanah, her husband, said to her, Hannah, why do you weep? And why do you not eat? And why is your heart sad? Am I not more to you than 10 sons? After they had eaten and drunk in Shiloh, Hannah rose. Now Eli the priest was sitting on the seat beside the doorpost of the temple of the Lord. She was deeply distressed and prayed to the Lord and wept bitterly. And she vowed a vow and said, O Lord of hosts, if you will indeed look on the affliction of your servant and remember me and not forget your servant, but will give to your servant a son, then I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life, and no razor shall touch his head. As she continued praying before the Lord, Eli observed her mouth. Hannah was speaking in her heart, only her lips moved, and her voice was not heard. Therefore Eli took her to be a drunken woman. And Eli said to her, How long will you go on being drunk? Put your wine away from you. But Hannah answered, No, my Lord, I am a woman troubled in spirit. I have drunk neither wine nor strong drink, but I have been pouring out my soul before the Lord. Do not regard your servant as a worthless woman, for all along I have been speaking out of my great anxiety and vexation. Then Eli answered, Go in peace, and the God of Israel grant your petition that you have made to him. And she said, let your servant find favor in your eyes. Then the woman went away and ate, and her face was no longer sad. They rose early in the morning and worshiped before the Lord. Then they went back to their house at Ramah, and Elkanah knew Hannah his wife, and the Lord remembered her. And in due time, Hannah conceived and bore a son, and she called his name Samuel, for she said, I have asked for him from the Lord. The man Elkanah and all his house went up to offer to the Lord the yearly sacrifice and to pay his vow. But Hannah did not go up, for she said to her husband, as soon as the child is weaned, I will bring him so that he may appear in the presence of the Lord and dwell there forever. Elkanah, her husband, said to her, do what seems best to you. Wait until you have weaned him. Only may the Lord establish his word. So the woman remained and nursed her son until she weaned him. And when she had weaned him, she took him up with her, along with a 3-year-old bull, an ephah of flour, and a skin of wine, and she brought him to the house of the Lord at Shiloh, and the child was young. Then they slaughtered the bull, and they brought the child to Eli, and she said, oh, my Lord, as you live, my Lord, I am the woman who was standing here in your presence praying to the Lord. For this child I prayed, and the Lord has granted me my petition that I made to him. Therefore I have lent him to the Lord. As long as he lives, he is lent to the Lord, and he worshiped the Lord there. One thing I love about biblical narrative is that big stories often start with little scenes. This obscure family from the hill country, relatively unknown place, and this is where God starts to work to establish his kingdom.
Yeah. No, I was thinking that too, that all God does, he does personally. I mean, there's no big stories without little stories.
Yeah.
And it's the little stories that matter because that's where he's really at work.
Yeah.
And I just thought about when the Iron Curtain fell, and what a surprise that was. It was an incredible surprise to everybody because we thought we would be facing off against the Soviet Union for our lifetime.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, out of the blue, this thing happens, and God was moving behind the scenes. And I'd like to sometime do a study, just what were the actual events that led up to that? Just because I'm sure there are little stories of personal lives and stuff like that. But that's what happens here.
Yeah.
It's a very little story, and yet it signals a monumental change in Israel.
Yeah. I think Rocky IV was really the turning point. Yeah. When everybody saw that movie, just couldn't really deny
That's true.
that underdog spirit just won the world over. Anyway.
That's right.
Yeah. But I digress. Yeah. No. And it is, you look at the Hebrew midwives and Jochebed and just the way the story of Moses starts, or Ruth and the way the story of David starts. It's often in times of great oppression. It's ordinary people, extraordinary faithfulness, and God working. And actually, I think one of the most encouraging thing is God concerned about the things that concern us, that he is deeply invested in our personal lives and the things that vex us. And then he grants our desires, but then uses them to fulfill his desires in a much bigger plan, which is really cool.
Yeah. No, it's good. And you look at the last 400 years for Israel, and it's just been dark. Really dark. And the times of the judges, it's just every man does what is right in his own eyes because there's no king. And it's like God is silent, and the people are just wandering around in idolatry and just keep getting worse and worse and worse. And then they'll be defeated by one tribe or another, and then they'll turn to God for a little while, and they'll turn back to God, and God will begin to bless them, and then they'll turn away from God and go back to idols. There's just an ongoing repeated record here.
Yeah.
And God finally moves in to do something new.
Yeah.
And it all starts with Hannah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. You say God is silent, but I mean, it seems like God has spoken and his word is there, but it's ignored.
Yeah.
And it's like,
that's a good point.
I mean, it's like, no, I mean, he's still, I mean, the word is there. And even, I know, because cyclically, I mean, we go through these times where it seems like things get worse, but God never changes. The thing that God has spoken is always the same, and we have various times of revival and coming close to it. So
yeah. And I think part of the restlessness for Israel is they keep getting delivered physically, and they never get delivered spiritually. Right? That God will raise up someone in his mercy to deliver them from their enemies, but it never causes their hearts to turn back to the Lord, that they go immediately back into the same cycle.
Yeah.
And so Israel needed something better than a strong man. They needed someone to purify the nation. And that's really what we see with Samuel, is someone who's going to clean house.
Yeah.
And reform and revive the nation spiritually.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. I thought the point you made, your first point, was that how God saw Hannah's plight, and he does, but he also caused Hannah's plight.
Yeah.
Because it says that God had prevented her.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it is. There are two ways of looking at Hannah's story, I think. There's the zoom in lens, which is her life's pretty awful.
Yeah.
Presumably she's the first wife of Elkanah, and because she couldn't have kids, Elkanah then took a second wife, which is a pretty common problem in the ancient Near Eastern world, and then misunderstood by her husband and mistreated by this rival wife.
Yeah.
And so you go, man, well, this is awful. Hannah's name means grace, and there's kind of a bitter irony there. Where's the grace in this story?
Yeah.
I think one thing I love about biblical narrative is that it gives you little clues of what's happening. And so the Lord closed her womb. Well, we've heard this story before, haven't we? Wait a minute. The Lord has closed wombs before with a purpose.
Yeah.
Sarah and Rebecca and Rachel. And often it's to open that womb and to do something extraordinary and display his power.
Yeah.
And so it's actually, I think when you have the wide angle lens, you're able to see it in a comforting light, that actually God is invested in this, that this hard situation is not a wasted situation, that God is actually working through it to accomplish something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think every affliction draws us closer to God, draws us to our knees. I mean, that's a pretty common thing. And so I think the encouragement that we can grab from that is, what am I going through? And what type of setbacks am I facing right now, and how am I responding to them?
Yeah.
And it's hard to know whether or not what God's going to do with them.
But you see his deep concern here in this passage, that he is working in the intimate details of Hannah's life. And if he's working, that's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, there's nothing he doesn't turn to good.
Yeah.
For those who trust him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one of the interesting things about reading biblical narrative is I still have a temptation to moralize what people do, right? So to say, well, Hannah's clearly a righteous character, and in the story, she's presented very positively. But dedicating Samuel to the Lord, you think, well, wait a minute, like you're going to give your kid to the Lord, but that means he has to live at Shiloh, and he has to live with Shiloh with Eli and Hophni and Phinehas, and these guys are awful. I mean, they're the problem with Israel, and so, what should and shouldn't we glean from Hannah's example here?
Well,
I think faith. I mean, I think that she clearly knew that God, the fact that he opened her womb, she knew that God was going to work through this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, she had faith that God would do something.
Mm-hmm.
And and I think that's one takeaway. But the actionable steps of like you said, don't bring your kids and drop them off.
Don't drop them off at Creekside. Yeah.
Yeah. Elkanah, though he's a priest, is not functioning as a priest.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously.
Yeah.
And probably most of the Levites at that time were not functioning as Levites.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so you got this little family business over here on the side. And though they are corrupt as corrupt can be, where else is Samuel going to learn how to be a priest?
Right.
But being apprenticed with the one priest in Israel.
Yeah.
And and it seems like Eli, for all of his faults, does a pretty good job raising Samuel.
Yeah.
He blew it with his other boys, but maybe he thought, well, maybe this is another chance. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. And I think I think one thing that encourages me about it is there are steps of faith we might take in life. And you look back and you go, I don't know, I made a decision. And yet God works through those. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's actually kind of encouraging to me that, you can look back and Monday morning quarterback your life all along, but if you're living in response to God, God just has a way of working and honoring people's faith, and working through it. And I think that's just an encouragement to me.
Yeah.
And the other thing, Hannah, I know it seems like if your mom just leaves you somewhere and you're just never there, but she always comes every year and she's bringing in these new linen. She's bringing new ephods for him and new dresses.
Yeah. So you got to be careful, I think. And this gets to the point too, is you don't want to draw too many of like, well, here's what his life situation is like, and here's what's going on. Cause we just don't know. Yeah. Right. It's just, the
text doesn't say.
Yeah. The text doesn't say, but I think there's a principle here that is great, that God's gifts are consecrated to God's use. And that's a theme we see throughout the Bible, that what the prayer of faith is, when God gives us the desires of the heart, it is to give us joy, but it's also to further his kingdom, and that we're blessed to be a blessing. And I think that's actually a really important principle for prayer, and thinking about the things that we're persistently praying for. Well, why? Why are we desperate for God to do that? And if God answered our prayer, what then? Because I can look back on my life and my prayer journals and think of times I was very desperate for God to do something, and he did. And I'm so quick to forget about those, or to not learn the lesson I was supposed to learn from the way God answered that prayer.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely right. I think too, is that we look at some of the weird ways that God has worked with us when we were just not in a great place, and still he worked. There'll probably be a day we look back on these days and see the same thing because, we're just not that close to God. In terms of who God is and his wisdom and all that stuff, we're not that wise. We're not that sharp. And it's only by grace that anything gets done. And there's just a lot of weird people in the Bible who just did weird things, but God blessed them. Yeah. So I think it's real, you don't want to get into too much the normalcy. Well, this is a normal Christian, and this is what they look like, and this is what they do, and stuff like this, because there's not a lot of normalcy.
Yeah, God works in surprising ways, and that's part of the point.
He does.
No, that's...
Why would he lead John the Baptist to eat locusts and wild honey and, and be out in the wilderness and stuff? Yeah, he was a very righteous man.
Yeah. Well, and I think another principle here is that some people do have very unique callings.
Yeah.
And God uses those people in extraordinary ways.
Yeah.
And I think even as parents, we have to be open to the idea that our kids could be called to do something very unique for the Lord, and that they might, we cannot get in their way, or should not get in their way as their parents from pursuing what the Lord is calling them.
Yeah.
And,
that's a good point.
One of my mentors down at Biola, he mentioned that one of the biggest hindrances to foreign mission is parents.
Mm-hmm.
And just, they're for the gospel someone has to take the risk.
Yeah.
In very dangerous places. And, well, who's the parent who's going to send their kid?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And praise God, there are some, but again, that's from any worldly vantage point, this is just the height of foolishness to do that.
Yeah.
And there's a daring faith there.
Yeah. I think that in general, that leaving and cleaving, type of thing, you have to, at some point, you do the work up front, and then you trust God.
Yep.
And it just happened a lot sooner for Hannah.
Yeah. Yeah. This is clearly a miraculous situation, but, I think another principle that you could take out of this is just that God, if you want to be used greatly by God, there's a cost to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you really want to see God work in those ways, their faith does have a cost, and it's worth it, but count that cost when you're taking steps of faith like this to serve the Lord. And, I really want to see God show up in my life. It's like, well, if you're in that position where you need God to show up in a miraculous way, it's not a fun position to be in necessarily.
Yeah.
And so,
be careful what you pray for.
Well, yeah. And yet, just, it strengthens faith so much. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Good. Well, Hannah gets her kid, fulfills her vow, drops him off. And then at the beginning of chapter 2, prays a very weird prayer. This is not the prayer I would have expected her to pray. Hannah prayed and said, "My heart exults in the Lord. My horn is exalted in the Lord. My mouth derides my enemies because I rejoice in your salvation. There is none holy like the Lord, for there is none besides you. There is no rock like our God. Talk no more so very proudly. Let not arrogance come from your mouth. For the Lord is a God of knowledge, and by him actions are weighed. The bows of the mighty are broken, but the feeble bind on strength. Those who have hired themselves out for full have hired themselves out for bread, but those who are hungry have ceased to hunger. The barren has borne 7, but she who has many children is forlorn. The Lord kills and brings to life. He brings down to Sheol and raises up. The Lord makes poor and makes rich. He brings low and he exalts. He raises up the poor from the dust. He lifts the needy from the ash heap to make them sit with princes and inherit a seat of honor. For the pillars of the earth are the Lord's, and on them he has set the world. He will guard the feet of his faithful ones, but the wicked shall be cut off in darkness. For not by might shall a man prevail. The adversaries of the Lord shall be broken to pieces. Against them he will thunder in heaven. The Lord will judge the ends of the earth. He will give strength to his king and exalt the horn of his anointed. Hannah breaks out into a song here. It's poetry, but the song seems to encompass much more than her personal situation.
I think if a prayer's in the Bible, it had to be inspired by God.
Yep.
Yeah. No room for amateurs here. So I think, I think this was a God-inspired prayer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
prophetic speech here.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. And you see here how Hannah's situation connects to Israel's situation and then connects to the world's situation.
Yeah.
Because Hannah very quickly goes from her situation to a much bigger picture here.
Yeah, to that kind of the principle behind history, as you pointed out, is that God exalts the humble. Yeah. God humbles the proud. Yeah. And that is as true today as it was back then.
Yeah.
It is a universal law of how to know what God is up to.
Yes. Yeah, that is the inviolate law moving history forward in a way.
Yeah.
Is that even if it seems like the wicked prosper, give it time.
Yeah.
The reversal's always coming.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, we just studied Psalm 73 last night in our men's group. And it's just, that's the idea there, is that Asaph is bummed because he's struggling to follow God, and it's getting him nothing but problems. He looks at the wicked who ignore God, and they're blessed.
Yeah.
And what is the deal with this? And it's a beautiful psalm of how the answer God gives him when he goes into the temple.
Yeah. And you'll have to read the psalm to find that answer.
Yeah. It's another, this appears throughout the Bible.
Right.
This is the way that God works.
Yeah. Yeah. And God starts with very small things to accomplish big things.
Yes.
That's part of how he exalts the humble here, because he exalts Hannah over Peninnah.
Yeah.
But almost immediately, Peninnah takes up a prayer that cannot be contained by her personal situation. I can't think of a better way to put it than that. Hannah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, because even her saying, "My mouth derides my enemies," well, she only has one enemy.
Yeah.
And one rival, and it's Peninnah. And so she's talking already about something bigger, which is the enemies of the Lord, and rejoicing in salvation, deliverance from God's enemies. And so this is already becoming national and cosmic in scope. And I think it sounds like the prayer of Exodus 15 and Deuteronomy 32. This is the song that God's people always sing when they praise God for his mighty acts of deliverance. I think the principle that strikes out to me, though, obviously, is what she articulates. God is opposed to the proud, but gives grace to the humble. That if you continue in arrogance, you will be humbled. And if you humble yourself, you will be exalted.
Yeah.
And so I was curious what you guys thought, just how pride is described here, because I think the way the Bible describes pride and what we think of as pride are two different things.
I like the way that you brought perspective into it, because I think that one of the biggest, subtle pride is that we think that we know more than we actually do.
Yeah.
And we'll think that we can solve problems with science or technique and in the short run, you can fix things.
Yeah.
But the big things are always still broken.
Yeah.
and the only person that understands the actual way all time works throughout eternity is the person, is God, who has the eternal perspective.
Yeah.
And we have to, by faith, trust that his eternal perspective is greater than ours.
Mm-hmm.
So the first instance of pride usually is thinking that from our perspective that we can understand how the world works.
Yep.
And that's our biggest, problem.
Leaning on our own understanding. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right that we tend to limit pride to certain things.
Mm-hmm.
It's either ego,
Yeah.
just and self-exaltation, or confidence in our knowledge, or confidence in our strength, or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But pride is everything. I mean, pride is every aspect of sin. It's independence.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's self-exaltation, self-confidence, self-dependence. All the ways that sin manifests itself through human beings
Mm-hmm.
is that you could categorize all that as that's pride.
Yeah.
Humility is the opposite. Humility is
Mm-hmm.
dependence and trust and self-giving, and in order to be right with God and all these things,
Mm-hmm.
is putting other people ahead of yourself and all these things. So humility is more than just thinking little of yourself.
No.
Or thinking, oh yeah, I can't do anything. We tend to limit that too.
That's a great point. And the irony of beating yourself up is that it's just another form of pride.
Yeah.
Because if you're so fixated on yourself and your own unworthiness or your own terribleness or your own whatever, it's just another way of not focusing on other people or focusing on God.
Yeah.
And so it's a trap as well.
Yeah, I heard somebody say the fact that you're disappointing yourself meant you believed in yourself.
Right. I know God forgives me, but I can't forgive myself.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
God, I know your standard is high, but I've got some really high standards for myself here, Lord.
I expect more from me.
I expect more from you. Yeah, God, you're gracious. I'm not. I hold myself to a high standard, Lord, and just, and so at root, I think that's why pride is a misunderstanding of God as well.
Yeah.
Right. That you have to understand the uniqueness of God, the singular greatness of God, to be put in your place rightly, to realize that we are created to revolve around God, to orient around God, not ourselves. We're in the solar system, we're the moon, not the sun. And
or maybe just a little rock.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're right. Pride is a rejection of God.
Yeah.
Just rejection that I need a God.
Yeah. It's D.A. Carson's The De-Godding of God.
Yeah.
Another thing that stands out to me is, as you were speaking there, is when we become more moral than God. When we read the Bible through this lens of our contemporary viewpoint, and we look at, we're bringing a 21st century perspective into first century or pre that time. Particularly if you're reading like God smote these people. And you're thinking, well, why would God do that?
Right.
And I've always had to correct myself thinking God knows more than I do about these people, what he's doing, who he's going to allow to live and who he's going to take out for whatever reason. And I'm not in a moral position to judge that. Even though it seems wrong,
Yeah. I mean, it's, one of the most humbling realities is to say that, what does Paul say in Romans 11? Who has ever given to God that had put him in his debt, right? So
who's
given gifts to God that he might be repaid, that line, right? And so just this idea that other people, I feel like they're indebted to me in some way because of things, and it's never true of God. And so like there is no breath he is indebted to give to me, right? Every moment is a gift. It's grace. And that gift can be rescinded rightfully at any time for God's own reasons. And now if you And that's, it's hard to swallow, but okay, why?
Mhm.
Why, because it shows how radically dependent and decentered I am in the universe.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and we'll be seeing this principle just play out again and again. I mean, this is the setup for the entire book, is what Hannah is saying here. Those who are full of hire themselves out for bread. Well, that sounds a lot like what happens to Eli's sons, and then, the not by, might is a man prevailing. Oh, that sounds like Goliath. And then sitting in princes of honor, and then what happens to David. And so this is really a preview of the surprising ways God reverses the course of history. And I think one of the great encouragements to me of these first couple chapters is there is great power in plodding along humbly in what God has called you to do.
Yeah.
The tasks that God has set before you, those are actually critical to accomplishing his purposes in the world writ large. And so don't despise the small things God calls you to, because God does big things through small things.
Yeah.
Really
I think that's a good point.
Yeah, and we get distracted because we see big things, or we see things that seem big. You know, we'll watch actors or politicians or people who seem to live on these large stages, that have a lot of eyes on them. And yet it's not, it's just pageantry and show. And that, another aspect of pride, whereas it to exist and to be joyful and to be content in doing the things that God has given you to do is a great thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah. The best thing.
The best thing.
I've been around a lot of ego-centered people, and they're not happy people. If you need acclaim, you need attention, you need all these things, they're pretty miserable people to be around.
Absolutely.
You're not a person. You're just a member of the audience for them.
Right.
And, and that's what they need. They need an audience.
They need an audience.
Yeah.
I have a very good friend, or a protege of mine, who has done very well for himself in his career. And the thing is we just got to see him this last weekend. And the thing I love about him, it doesn't seem to faze him at all.
So cool.
There's nothing about the accolades and the acclaim that he's got have gone to, it doesn't seem to have gone to his head. And he just seems, he seems so, and when, he comes here to play with us, and he was just like, he was happy to be here.
That's so great,
Yeah.
man.
And anyway, I think that, and that's a role model of, humility. And, anyway, I think that's something that we can all strive for.
Yeah. Keller had that book, The Joy of Self-Forgetfulness.
Yeah.
That's, and that's really the upside down way that God tells us to pursue joy. And it kind of gets to his upside down kingdom. So great. Well, thanks guys. It'll be fun in a very new book. This is not 1 Timothy, I'll tell you. 1 Samuel, very different book, but excited to jump into it. All right. Thanks for listening. We will talk to you again soon.